Good morning. Happy Friday. Today, I'm going to talk about how long we need to market. So how long do we need to market for? Um, Now that's a good question because it depends on which bit of it you're talking about. So what I mean is there are several answers to that question. So let's deal with the biggest one first. Across my entire business, let's say I'm planning on coaching for the next 10 years, or let's say I'm planning on running my business, which will include coaching for the next 10 years, you need to market for the next 10 years. The thing about marketing is that it needs to be as utterly consistent as your business is. And once you get to a point where your client acquisition process is robust and you're generating clients predictably, so you know what you need to do in order to generate clients, you know what the process is, you know what you need to say, you know which things they um, respond to the best, you know where you need to market. So that what I mean by that is where you need to market. Number one, we all need to be on LinkedIn. Professional coaches should have a well optimized LinkedIn profile. Excuse me. The other places that you need to be depend upon who your marketing is focused on, as in which group of people. Now, when I say which group of people, I mean, I'm getting really specific. I mean, industry, sector, or profession. Let me give you two examples. If you want to work with, let's say, teachers, and you want to work, somebody else wants to work with, let's say, lawyers, with outside of LinkedIn and certainly offline, those two groups of people exist in very different places. So the kinds of professional bodies they attend, the kinds of professional bodies they belong to are different. The kind of professional events they attend are different. You're not going to find a teacher at a lawyering conference. You're not going to find a teacher who is a member of the Law Society. You're not routinely going to find teachers being members of the Law Society, and vice versa. Lawyers aren't going to hang out at teaching conferences. So when you know who they are, you know where they are. Now, I keep saying that when you know who they are, you know where they are. That is incredibly important, because if you don't know where they are, then you don't know where you need to be. Which is why saying that you work with professionals doesn't give you any clues about where they are. When you say you work with women who, which women? Where are you going to find them? Where do you need to be? Which publications do you need to write for? Which conferences do you need to attend? If you don't know who they are, you don't know where they are. And you can spend an awful lot of money trying to attend everything to be where everyone is. One of the kind of, I think it's really quite glib, although I do appreciate it probably isn't intended like that. But when people say, oh, well, I work with humans, it's like, that might be right on this side of the scales, the delivery side of your coaching business. But on the other skill set, humans is not focused enough to mean that your marketing will be effective. So how long do I need to market for in the bigger picture is for as long as you have a business. Now, that's true of all businesses, not just coaching businesses or portfolio businesses that include coaching. Every single business has to have a robust client acquisition process, because if you don't have clients, you don't have a business. And kind of building up that robust process, that's what we do. We teach you how to build up a robust client acquisition process. But once you've got that, then you need to market forever, for as long as you've got your business. So I think I've covered that. Now, if we come down a little bit and say, okay, so I'm starting today. I know nothing about marketing. I'm going to learn what I need to know. So if you joined us, quite a common question is, well, how long do I need to spend on this? So In the beginning, when you're first learning about how marketing works and how client acquisition works, there is some heavy lifting to do in terms of the work required. So, making sure that your niche is a commercially viable niche, making sure that your the ideal client avatar that you build in order to kind of personify the people in your target audience or niche. That's quite a chunky piece of work too. Um, there is what I call a 3 a.m. cascade, which is what are the things that are going on in the head of your potential clients at 3 o'clock in the morning, when they're lying awake worrying about this thing that working with you can resolve. What specifically are they worrying about? And there tends to be like a whole, there might be one big thing at the top, but then there are lots of other smaller things that kind of cascade down. And whilst they might seem smaller, in the mind of our potential client at 3 o'clock in the morning, any of them can feel overwhelming. It's a really weird time, isn't it, to be awake and worrying, and we've all done it. Once you have your ideal client avatar in your 3 a.m. cascade, then the next thing to do is to build a marketing message. And we teach that as we teach you to build it as a keynote presentation. And so a keynote presentation basically positions you as an authority, very specific, not an authority, I'm the best coach in the world, not an authority, I'm the best lawyer coach in the world, but an authority on that particular group of people with that particular problem. So the intersection of where the who, the industry, sector, or profession, and job titles within it, and the what, the subject around which you most would like to coach, it positions you as an authority in that very specific sector. It doesn't shout, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. It's not a salesy thing. It's a message that demonstrates your knowledge and understanding of and your empathy for the individuals who are struggling with the problem that you want to help with. That's the most of the heavy lifting, developing those, and everything else comes from those things. So that work is quite labor intensive, but again, like most things with marketing, it's about thinking. It's like coaches actually really love learning to market because it's about challenging your thinking and reframing how you think about certain things. If we then look at, what do I need to learn? Well, the world constantly changes. The world of marketing constantly changes. The platforms that we use to market on evolve, or new ones pop up, or they disappear. I'm thinking, for example, TikTok popped up in 2017 when it was just a daft place for the kids to do silly dances, and now all the premium brands and all the political parties and all the newspapers and all the serious hitters are on TikTok. And they wouldn't be there if their clients weren't there, which means that if their clients are there, then probably ours are there too. And then you look at Twitter, which is kind of disintegrated into X, and so Edu Twitter was a really good place for teachers to be, for example, and now that's not the case anymore. So constant evolving means we need to stay on top of our game. So kind of knowing what's changing and anticipating what's changing and changing what we do in order to stay on top of that and evolve how we're marketing is really important. The tools that we can use to market change. So, AI, large language models, is really probably the biggest change in tools. But just for the record, LLMs can't do your marketing for you. All they can do is amplify what you've already done. So if you're starting from scratch and asking it to develop an ideal client for me and a marketing message for me, it doesn't know about how specialist marketing to coaches is. If you talk to it about coaching, it thinks like the rest of the world that coaching is an exchange of knowledge. It can't do the heavy lifting for you. You have to do the thinking first, but then it becomes quite a useful tool. So Staying on top of your game involves some kind of outside the actual active marketing time that involves some thinking and staying, reading and keeping abreast of what's going on. On a daily basis, to start with, you probably want to spend an hour on your marketing over and above kind of the learning stuff, an hour on creating marketing assets. Once you are competent at that, then you can start to automate some of it so that you're not kind of having to sit and write things every day, or you're not having to kind of come up with new stuff all the time. You can take the things that you've created, nothing's lost. You can take the things that are created and you can start to schedule some content, or to use automation or individuals to do some of the work for you. But you cannot outsource your marketing until you have marketing that works. You need to know that your robust client acquisition process is working before you outsource it, because otherwise you're unable to support the person that's doing it for you. They can automate your content, for example. They can schedule it into something like Socialmonials or Metricool, but they can't create your marketing message for you, or not in any. I've never seen it work. I've never seen it done successfully. So there is a kind of an hour a day in the beginning creating content, and that changes as time goes on. Overall, between 35 and 50% of your available time will be spent on client acquisition. That doesn't necessarily mean sitting behind your computer writing LinkedIn articles. That's not what it means at all. Or delivering live streams. That's not what it means at all either. But in order to build and maintain a robust client acquisition process, you do need to be spending sort of 35 to 50% of your time on your marketing. Now, some of that might be attending conferences, some of that might be networking, some of, it can be in-person stuff, but it's not delivery time. Your delivery time would be between 50 and 65% of your available time. And that's not just people who are running coaching businesses or portfolio coaching businesses. That's everybody. That's businesses. If there is an individual who's running their own business, they need to spend 35 to 50% of their time on their marketing. I know that can make coaches feel angry. I know that coaches can feel misled and disappointed and frustrated because they did not understand when they started their coach training that if they wanted a private practice or even some private clients, they were going to need to learn how to find them. And the reason for that, the reason that that's how we feel when we start a coach training program, is that the majority of us have never had to find our own clients for anything before. People who join coach training, who have a background in marketing or even a background in sales, very quickly realize that they're going to need some extra skills to be able to figure this out. And, I do speak to coaches who have got sort of halfway through a program and thought, hang on a second, where are these clients going to come from? Where am I going to find them? And those are really smart people. For the majority, and I'm not saying that we're not smart, but we're not quite as savvy as the ones who figure it out while they're training. We go out and we look and we kind of try talking to people and having the good conversations that we've been promised will lead to clients, and they do lead to the occasional client. So then we think, well, maybe that, anyway, I can go on about the things that we do wrong, but at some point we realize that what we're doing is not sustainable. It's not going to work in the long term. And at that point, we have two choices. We can either get over ourselves with our kind of bad feeling about marketing and having to market ourselves, or we go back to working for somebody else. Now, some coaches will do associate work, and that's great. So that means you get to deliver the coaching and you don't have to worry about finding the clients because the associate company does that. Associate coaching is becoming a lot more competitive, particularly on the platforms like Ezra, Lyra, Coach Hub, BetterUp, that kind of platform. And again, I've mentioned it before, but it's becoming so competitive that there is an organisation in the UK who sells coaching to companies, and their associate coaches deliver for free. They deliver pro bono. And apparently that company has a waiting list for coaches to work with them. And the reason for that is, the reason there is a waiting list is because we want to coach, and the hours delivered for that organisation count towards our logged hours for our professional bodies and our accreditations and designations, etc. I have quite strong feelings about that. I think it's exploitation, but I nobody's asked me, so there we go. Part of the getting your head around how long do I need to spend coaching isn't to go, oh no, I've got to spend how long? Sorry, marketing. Getting our head around marketing isn't to go, oh God, I've got to spend how long marketing? That's awful. I don't want to do it. I hate marketing. What I can tell you is, you don't hate it when it's bringing you clients. You don't hate it when what you're doing is working. You absolutely don't hate it. You only hate it when what you're doing isn't working. And the reason it isn't working, I would be prepared to, bet my back teeth, is because what you're doing is unfocused, it doesn't have enough thought behind it, because marketing isn't logical. Casting our net wide and letting everybody know what we do, and working with people in transitions or professionals, they all feel like the right thing to do. And that's coming from us having a Noah's mind, not Noah's Ark, but Noah as in I know. We think we know how it works, and we don't. We don't. Marketing is a professional skill, and we don't know how it works. And to give you an idea of just how much we don't know how it works, the Coaching Revolution has worked with loads of people with degrees and entire careers in marketing, who have been working as heads of brand, heads of marketing for large organizations. And they still came to us because they knew they didn't know how to market this. They knew how to market somebody else's product, but they didn't know how to market this. And part of that, number one, that's wisdom from people who actually know. And number two, the reason that people who've had whole careers in marketing struggle to market this is that our education systems produce employees, not entrepreneurs. And we need to become entrepreneurs if we want to have a coaching business. And part of being an entrepreneur is being able to find enough clients to sustain our business so that we can get out of it what we want to get out of it. So, one last thing before I disappear. If you just want a few clients on a Friday, or if you want a full coaching practice and to engage associates to deliver some of the coaching work for you, you would still need to market the same amount of time. There isn't any such thing as part-time marketing or light touch marketing. A part-time coach and a full-time coach still need to market the same amount of time. And the reason for that is that in order to sell somebody coaching, first of all, they need to understand what it is that we do and how we can help them. And they need to see enough of us that they know, like, and trust us before they will part with any sum of money to work with us. And that takes time. One of the biggest misconceptions about how, for example, LinkedIn works is this idea that if we post on the internet, on a social media platform, that everybody sees it. And the truth is that attention is one of the most valuable commodities in the 21st century. It's right up there. It is incredibly expensive to gain. You can either, like the big organizations who pay for ads, you can pay for ads and gain attention. You can buy attention. By the way, please don't rush off and pay for ads, because unless you have done all of the background work, you won't have enough information to do anything other than give the platform a siphon into your bank account. So you know, big companies advertise, think of sponsored posts on LinkedIn, etc. And the rest of us need the cost to us is time. We teach low cost and no cost marketing in the first year because you can spend a lot of money on tools that promise the earth, but what you really need to do is spend the time building your client based on your own knowledge and experience. And I know that sounds wonky, that coaching's not about my knowledge and experience. So let me go back to this idea of two sides of a weighing scale. On the delivery side of our scales, it's not about our knowledge and experience. But on the creating the opportunities to do the delivery side of our scales, the client acquisition side, it is about our knowledge and experience. If you would like the opportunity to have a robust conversation with me, to even completely disagree with me if you want to, why don't you join me for my Nail Your Niche Challenge, which is happening from the 7th to the 10th of September. You don't have to commit for whole days. It's reasonably light touch, but I will help you understand where your niche is, how to describe what you do in a single sentence in a way that makes sense to people who are not coaches, and how to do that with a song in your heart because it's fun. The link to register for the challenge is in the post above. I look forward to seeing you on the 7th, and otherwise I will see you on Monday when we are going to talk about why trying to market to everyone, or why trying to coach everyone, doesn't find us clients. I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.